What do you think is one of the biggest challenges that small businesses have?
Well, I know that the three main challenges are either people have an idea that they think it's a great idea and they should build a business around it, but they don't actually have evidence of it. Instead of testing the market, they start building this big, elaborate business without actually testing the market and see whether there is a need for their product or a service. This is number one. The second one is that they don't have sufficient resources or a plan how to execute on their business idea. This is why most businesses actually fail in 3 years because they simply run out of cash. And the third one, they don't know how to sell. Sales is literally the one thing that is driving revenue to businesses, and that's feeding your bottom line, and that facilitates you building a business and scaling a business. The most common problems are usually one of these three. Because if they were great at sales, they wouldn't need investment or they wouldn't need financing, they could manage. If they would be good at planning, then they would have already calculated for these things. And if they validated their products, they wouldn't be struggling. So it's usually one of these three.
Every company wants to grow, or at least most people want to grow the company.
I hear a lot of business owners, especially like small business owner, I just want to stay small. I just want to keep it like a family business. I don't want to grow. It's really weird, but I hear this really often. Some companies just don't want to grow.
What would you say to small companies who want to grow their business?
I have a plan, right? If you get in your car and you know where you're going, you know the way to get, you can find the way to get there. But if you don't know where you're going, it's not enough to say like, okay, I want to be making like 10 million. You need to understand how your business can possibly facilitate that, how much it is going to cost you to facilitate it, and then what resources you need to dedicate where to make that happen. And you need to check whether that's still financially viable. And then we can get there, right? You need to have like a proper plan to see how to make it happen. So have a plan, both a business strategy, a sales and marketing strategy, and a financial plan, a proper cash flow forecast that factors in all these variables.
When it comes to planning, where do companies normally fail?
Most of the companies are not planning properly, or they don't consider the impacts of their actions on other areas of the business. So say you want to increase your sales, and you increase your sales, but you suddenly find out that you're not able to meet the client's expectations because you're so overloaded. Or you want to increase your sales, but you don't have a budget for marketing. It doesn't work like that. You need to consider all the different variables, what it takes in terms of human resources, in terms of finances, and in terms of if you achieve those goals in delivery, like what your company will have to do to be able to deliver more than before.
What's the biggest turnaround you've seen in a company that's kind of changed their plan?
I actually worked with a coach who was a solopreneur, and he was just thinking about getting more clients as a coach. But then eventually, after our business development training I did with him, he actually decided to build a company with a network of coaches. So basically, he's going to put a system in place that will get the results, but in order to achieve his personal goals, as it turns out, he'll have to build a team. So he decided to build something much bigger than just himself, which I was very pleased about, because obviously he'll be creating job opportunities, he'll be serving much more people, he'll have a much wider reach with a great product than what he could possibly achieve just by himself.
What 2 books would you most recommend to business owners, entrepreneurs, people who may be in the first few years of their business?
If I can pick 2 books, one would have to be MJ DeMarco's Millionaire Fastlane. He basically says a lot of really valid things about how we relate to money and how we relate to investing, and just changes your mindset about what it actually takes to grow and scale a business. So there is very specific patterns that can be observed in successful companies, and when you look at these, you really have to make some hard decisions whether you would like to engage in those sort of activities, whether you cut out for that even, but it's good to be aware at least so you can make an informed decision whether you should get into it. The second is maybe the psychology of money. I feel like that's more a book on investing, but it helps to put things in perspective when it comes to handling your company's finances.
Why should companies come to you?
They shouldn't. If everything is going well, then good luck. But if they need a structured business plan, a step-by-step action plan, how to get to where they want to be, then I can definitely work out how to translate their ideas into a daily action plan that can be executed, which will then get them to the end result, just like a roadmap. And this will be supported by a financial strategy, a clear business plan, and if needed, a sales and marketing strategy.
Why should companies work with you?
Well, I mostly work with scale-ups or small businesses that are looking to acquire investment, bring an investor on board, maybe apply for financing from a bank or bring a business partner on board in order to grow. For this, usually financiers and potential business partners require a business plan. Without you being able to show a clear-cut strategy of what people are investing in or what they're buying into as a business partner, you'll have a hard time convincing a bank, a venture capital, or a potential business partner to invest unless they are not very clued up, which banks and venture capitals usually are. Business partners, depends who you're talking to.
What would you say to businesses out there who, let's say, have already had some success, they've got some cash, they've got like an idea to grow, but perhaps it's a new area they've not ventured before?
I would say once you know how much financial resources you can allocate and you have a business idea, then let's validate that business idea. So the validation can be done in multiple ways. You can do potential customer surveys, you can look at competitor data if it exists and see if the competitors are generating revenue. Then you just have to identify how you're going to differentiate yourself on the market and how you're going to launch your product in a red ocean type of situation, or how you can create a new market for your specific product by niching down maybe. And the third one is that you either way you need to have a plan about how you're going to turn your financial resources into more money. And you need to have a clear-cut strategy how that money exactly is going to become more and how it's going to be utilized that actually delivers results. And you have to be very frugal when it comes to business finance.
What would you say to businesses that are looking for investors?
I would say that consider the investor himself or the company that is investing in you and their interests. Because when you take money from somebody for your business idea, you're responsible for that money. So it's one thing you have a vision and you get to play with other people's money, but you still need to be responsible to generate returns to the people that invest in you. Otherwise, it might be the last time you'll be running a business ever if you burn your reputation.
How can you help companies get investors?
So there are some very clear metrics or very clear points that investors are looking for when they invest in a company. One of them is how scalable your business idea is, and that comes down to whether it requires additional human effort to generate more revenue. The other one is whether your team can execute on what you're promising, and the third one is they actually want to see a plan, how you plan to make the stuff happen that you claim. By putting these three things together and ensuring that your business idea is attractive to investors, you're much more likely to receive funding.
What's the biggest mistake that you normally see companies do when they're looking for an investor?
The biggest mistake is that they don't consider the investors and they don't consider the parameters the investors are looking for, which are having a business plan and a clear, structured idea about how you're going to execute on what you're looking to achieve. Having the team members in place that can actually execute and they look trustworthy. The third one is whether your business idea is scalable. If you don't evaluate this yourself in a house, and you go in front of an investor, you might never get a second chance to sit with that same person again.
What's the worst mistake you've seen a company make with an investor? And what's the best outcome you've seen with an investor?
There are different type of investors. Let's just establish that first. So often when people start a business, there are the first round of investment, which is the 3 Fs, full friends and family. If we consider that, I'm sure everybody knows somebody who blew a big chunk of money with no results of friends, family, and whoever was gullible enough to invest in their ideas. I'm sorry to say that, but it's just a fact if you don't look at plans and you give somebody money. So based on a feeling, that's just not right. Structured investment companies simply evaluate risk. They have a team in place who evaluate risk and business plans, and they know what they're doing. What many people don't realize is that they calculate for failure, right? So investment companies, let's say if they invest in 10 companies, they're fully aware that 8 of them are not going to make it, but the 2 that will bring the return. So that's why they invest in more than one company. It's not just they invest in one company.
What's the best example you have of success when it comes to working with investors?
The best example is really, you just have to look around. There are several companies who were able to grow massively, and the reason why is that they knew what they needed money for, and they had a clear understanding how that money they get going to generate more.
You've run quite a number of businesses to date. What was your experience in terms of getting investment?
It was different because I started my first tech company back in 2015, 2016. And then at that time, still tech entrepreneurship wasn't as common, and the financing for online businesses wasn't so readily available. You really had to go through a much more rigorous vetting process to get financing. And often we had to build very, very lean. And that taught me a really valuable lesson, building lean, like building an MVP, understanding what's a minimum viable product that we can put in the market today, monetize, so that we can reinvest into the company and grow. And when you grow in with that mindset in front of an investor today, that you already have something to monetize, which helps to keep your bottom line stable, and you want to scale that up, they are much more likely to invest in you.
What would you say to companies out there who, so far, they've failed to get investment?
I would say to take a good hard look in the mirror and let that message that you got from your potential investors pass through your ego and just reflect on it really hard, because if people are not willing to invest in your company, the error might be on your end, and you cannot say that they are wrong not to see your vision. You might actually be doing something wrong, and they might be saving you from a much harder failure further down the line. The hard reality is that your ego is not letting you see this. Seasoned investors are pretty good at understanding what can and what cannot work. And if they see an opportunity, of course they want to make money, so they would invest in your company. But there must be something wrong if they're not willing to give you money. So go back to the drawing board, look at your business idea, look at your business plan, and see where it fails to meet the criteria that the investors are looking for.
What would you say to small businesses that fail to get financing from their bank?
Well, banks are pretty rigorous about risk. So if they see your business as high risk, or they sense that you might not be able to pay them back, they're less likely to give you a loan or lend you money. Firstly, you need to look at your credit score and how to improve your credit score, and what are your spending habits in your business. Keep good eye on your bookkeeping and about how you use your business account, so that it is showing the bank that you're responsible with the money that you already have in the company and how you might be spending that. And if you go back with a structured business plan that shows how you're going to be able to repay them, and they see that you're managing your account responsibly, there is no reason why they wouldn't lend you money, because at the end of the day, by lending you money, they're also profiting. So it's a mutually beneficial deal. Banks and investors are not your enemy. They want to make money together with you, but they have a responsibility over the money that they've given you. And the reason why they might not be lending money to you is because you seem like a high risk.
What qualifies you in terms of helping companies get investment and do business plans?
I had a difficult childhood. My mother was an accountant, and she was the first one who had a higher education in our family. I come from a working class background. My granddad was a coal miner, and my mom took this responsibility upon her, and the praise from the family, or this responsibility from the family, very seriously, and she wanted to ensure that I followed the same path. So she used to read taxation law for me as bedtime stories. I had to work with her from a very young age. We were always calculating everything. And then from the age of 12, I was actually interning in the family accounting firm over the summers and later during the school time as well, which was very interesting for me, because what I discovered is that the companies that were doing better than others, the biggest differentiator was basically they were just making more sales. And then I realized, like, okay, so the companies that are doing better are just doing more sales, or are they just better at sales? Then I started thinking, how can you make more sales for companies? And it was marketing, so I went to study marketing. But I understand the finance, the sales, and the marketing. So when you're able to connect these, you also understand why companies work, why they don't, and what makes an investment feasible and what doesn't.
Let's say I'm a small business and I need somebody to help me with my business plan. Why should I work with you?
Well, first of all, I built 2 companies that were acquired. One of them was a local business, the other one was an online business. So I have a fairly good understanding about how to build a business and how to make it profitable. And I have a solid background in finance and marketing. As a combination of these, I can help you model your business in a way that is financially sustainable and helps you to become profitable.
And how many business plans have you worked on that got investor funding?
Approximately 30 to 40% of the business plans I work on receive funding. Not all business owners I work with apply for funding. Sometimes they want to build lean and they don't want to give away equity in their company. Sometimes they are just small family businesses who just need a clear plan, say for passing the torch on to the next generation, and they want to have a plan in place for them so that they know how to run the business when the parents decide to retire somewhere on the Mediterranean.
What are the biggest pain points for your clients?
Usually not having enough sales. The reality is that sales drives the bottom line, and companies often either need to improve their product to get more sales, or they need to invest in marketing or personnel to drive sales. So they need to bring money into the company either to improve the product or to improve their sales and marketing processes. But when they bring money into the company, they also need to have a plan about how they're going to allocate the resources to make sure that it will actually generate the results they're looking for.
What's the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make?
I like to use the analogy of driving. When you get into your car, if you don't know where you're going, there is no road that be right for you or no direction that is correct. You need to have a very clear idea about where you want to get and what that might look like. Then you can map out the road, how to get there or how to make that happen. I'm not saying you have to follow that plan to the T, and there might be roadblocks along the way, there might be car crashes along the way, but you can take a different route, you can go a different direction, but you still know where you're going. So you adapt to the traffic situation, but you still know where you're going and how to get there exactly. But in order to get somewhere, you need to have a plan. And if you're just winging it, it's not going to be very good. Similarly, when you build a house, you might have an idea of what your house will look like. But if you don't go to an architect to get a plan and you tell the builders, I want it like that, and they just wing it, it's not going to be a very good house.
What motivated you to start a business where you're helping other businesses plan and grow?
When I worked at our family accounting firm, most of our clients were small to medium-sized businesses, and I realized the level of integrity among small business owners. They were all very passionate about the products and the services that they delivered, and they really genuinely cared about their clients. That level of honesty and integrity was fascinating to me, and growing up around these people and seeing how hard they worked to deliver value to their customers was just fascinating. I fell in love with this small, medium-sized business world, and it is responsible for most of the jobs in the economy. By helping these companies, I feel like I'm helping the economy, creating more jobs, putting food on families' tables, and that's a very good feeling to go to sleep with at night, knowing that I've done my bit for society.
What would you say is your purpose?
To make a better world for my son, to make the world a better place for my son. I have a 12-year-old son, and I want to leave this place better than I found it for him.
And how do you plan to do that?
By helping small to medium-sized business owners thrive and become more successful, creating more jobs and boosting the economy, creating economic stability and peace, and also sustainability, but not the greenwashing agenda, not the bullshit stuff around that, but the real sustainability.
Can you tell me about some of the success stories of some of your most recent clients?
I'm very proud to say that I helped BNI to launch a country. So BNI is Business Network International. I don't work for them, but I partnered with local franchise licensee who opened a new country for them, and I helped launch the first chapter together with her to create this supportive business community. And I'm very, very proud of that, because we already generated over €1 million, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to double check that, but it's in the range of that now.
Do you think more and more people are trying to become entrepreneurs than ever before?
No, actually I don't. People are looking for convenient ways, and most of them are looking for a high-paying job with having as little to do as possible. And I think entrepreneurship is reserved to the 10% of people who are self-motivated and who want to be free and independent.
Why do you think most people are not self-motivated?
People generally gravitate towards the least resistance, and from our conditioning it's often easier to just get a safe and stable job, get the paycheck every month, rather than risk your security, your financial security, your financial stability. That's a big step.
Are there any commonalities behind your clients? Any similar problems that come up?
Each client is unique in their own way, and they have different type of problems. So the framework is always the same. The people don't realize that actually there is a similar formula. There are some components, like knobs, that you need to turn to have it right, and different knobs off with different people.